Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am hoping that we're in focus. I'm looking in the viewfinder and it seems like we're in focus, but I never really know until I start editing. But hopefully we are in focus for today's video. So today's video is about dealing with disappointment, and it's something that I struggle with, so I just wanted to share what I've kind of experienced and what I've learned, and hopefully can help somebody else. It can be a blessing to somebody else and help them get through their seasons of disappointment as well. Okay, so I want to start off with a definition of disappointment. So it is a noun, and it is the feeling of sadness or displeasure caused by the defeat of one's hopes or expectations. And then I want to read two scriptures that came up when I was thinking about disappointment and how we deal with them. And the first one is Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9, and it says, "My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord, and my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Secondly, Jeremiah 29 verse 11, one of my favorite texts. "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And from these texts, I get that God knows that we're going to be disappointed. He knows that there's going to be things in our lives that cause us to feel sad, that cause us to feel down. And he's just like, hey, like, I know, like, I understand that you're going to feel this way because of the situation or because of this person, but don't worry, because you know what? I got you. And things will eventually work out. And it's hard. Like, I know that it's hard for me when things don't go how I plan them to, or people don't live up to my expectations, or I buy something and it's not what I initially thought it would be, and I get myself into this funk, and I'm just like God, like, I'm so sad about the situation or the person or the thing. And you know, sometimes I just have to remind myself, like, sometimes it's not that big of a deal, and when it is, you know, just realizing that people don't have to live up to my expectations. My expectations are or what I have placed upon somebody else, and it is not their responsibility to live up to it. And same thing with, like, situations and things. Life happens, people change, situations don't always play out the way that we hope they will, and it is natural for us to be disappointed, but it's a part of life, and accepting that makes it easier. So there's just a few points that I wanted to kind of talk about in regards to disappointment, and how I kind of like have come to terms with it, and how I process it and move on from it. So the first one is that disappointment happens. Like, it's a part of life, and it's impossible to go about life expecting not to be disappointed, because then you'll be disappointed when you get disappointed. But it's a natural part of life, and I think it's a natural part of life because we do have hope and we do have expectations, and nothing is wrong with that. We should be hopeful, and we should have expectations of people, of things, and of situations. And so because of those hopes and expectations, when things don't go the way that we want them to, we are going to be disappointed. And in all honesty, like, it's okay. Like, it happens. It's natural. And there's no point in beating yourself up about it. It's just accepting it and pushing through. And that's my second point. When you are disappointed, you have to then sit down and ask yourself, like, what can I do with this feeling? What can I do with this situation or this person now that will help me to feel better and to move forward? And in most scenarios, like, it'll be one of two things. There's something that you can do, and then there's also times when there's just like, at this point, there's nothing you can do, and you just have to accept it. When there's something that you can do, honestly, just get up, brush off your feelings of sadness, and do it. Just go and make that change that you need to feel better, as well as being aware of the people around you. Again, your hopes and expectations that you put on somebody else, it's not their responsibility to live up to it. But let's say if they're asking you to hold them accountable, if they're asking you to be a good friend and to say, hey, like, this is how that made me feel, then by all means necessary, go and say, hey, you know what, I felt disappointed that you did this, or if it was in a product, or anything like that. There are changes that you can cause for you to feel better. But then there's also instances where there's nothing that you personally can do. And I feel like just accepting that is important in the moving on process. Being like, hey, like, yo, like, I feel sad about the situation, but I know, like, I can't change that person. I can't change the situation because it already happened. But maybe I can learn something from it and take it with me into my future hopes and expectations, so that it's not unrealistic, so that I'm not setting myself up for disappointment anymore. And then the last thing that I kind of want to highlight is that sometimes, like, okay, let me say it in this quote that I hear all a lot. Sometimes disappointments, or our disappointments, are God's appointments, right? Sometimes things don't work out for a specific reason, and we sometimes we never know why, and sometimes later on in life we kind of realize why they didn't work out. And when we are in situations of disappointment, when things didn't work out the way that we planned, that's when those two scriptures come in handy, and we just have to trust the process. We have to trust in God and say that, like, I can't see tomorrow, I can't see 10 years down the road, but he can. And he knows that if he allows me to have this job today, that I won't be in my dream job 10 years from now. He knows that if I start dating this person today, I will not be in a happy marriage. I will not have the children and the lifestyle that I want. And so sometimes we have to be disappointed to allow God to do his work, to allow for God to step in and to set up things just the way that he needs them to be set up, so that he can come in with his blessings and just anoint our lives in a way that we didn't think was possible. And so a lot of times when things don't work out for me nowadays, like, I try to sit down and say, well, God, like, you saw the work that I put in, you saw my motives for this, you saw what would happen, and if you did not allow it, like, I'm just accepting that, like, okay, that's fine. If relationships fall apart, if people disappoint me, I still do feel hurt, and I will have that conversation with that person sometimes, and I will express how I'm feeling. But I'm also at the point where I'm like, all right, God, like, are you removing this person for a reason? Like, are you removing them to place somebody else that will uplift me and be a better match for me and help me to grow into the person that I want to be and that you want me to be? Like, why are you allowing this? And, sometimes we don't see it right away. Sometimes it's like years down the road. Sometimes sometimes we just never understand why. And that's why he says, his thoughts are higher than ours. And that's when you build that faith and that trust and say, you know what, God, like, I don't get it, but I know you. Like, I can't see what you're doing, but I trust that you have my best interest at heart. And that's just one of the best ways to look at disappointment. And when you're not feeling as if you are making the moves or getting the opportunities that you want, just saying, God, like, you see my heart's desire, you see my needs, you see my bills that I need to pay, you see my want for a relationship, you see my want for connection with others, you see my want for, a house, a car, a spouse, children, whatever it is, and saying, like, God, it's not happening right now, and I don't feel good about the situation, about the person, about myself, but show me your plan for my life. Show me why you're putting me through this. Show me how this is going to work out for the good of me, for the good of others, for the good of you. Just show it to me. Help me to understand. And even if you don't understand, just help me to accept it, God, that, you know what, this is your plan, and your plan for my life is way better than my plan for my life. And again, it may not be easy, but it will help you to develop better strategies for dealing with these negative feelings. And like, again, it's a part of life, and we can avoid disappointment, but if we learn how to deal with it, it will help to put us in a better space. It will help us to be better off emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And it's unfortunate. I hate being disappointed. I hate being disappointed in myself, especially when I make decisions that I know I shouldn't have made, and then it comes around and just nabs me in the back. But again, it's a part of life, and I've just learned to accept it and to just put it before God and to accept his will for my life above all. And I implore you to, work on that and see how you can get to that place. I mean, I'm not there fully where I'm just like, oh, I'm disappointed. Oh, but Jesus. I still feel sad. I still mope around sometimes, and I still like struggle to be like, okay, God, let me place this in your hands. But I'm getting there. I'm like climbing the ladder slowly. So if it's something that you struggle with, no, you're not alone. And it's possible to acknowledge, embrace those feelings, and to then just let them go. A lot of times our disappointment due to our expectations of other people cause us to ruin a lot of relationships. A lot of relationships that could have been good too. And it's just unhealthy and toxic to place our unrealistic expectations on somebody else. And even if they're not unrealistic expectations, if that person isn't the one who set that expectation, they don't have to live up to our own expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's our expectations. It's not their standard for their life, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that's kind of what I just wanted to talk about today. And as always, remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are enough, and I will see you next week, Wednesday, for our next video. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if there are any questions, topics, anything that you would like me to talk about on this channel, please let me know down below or send me a message on any of my social media platforms, and I will be sure to do a video about it. So you guys will see me next week. As I said, I'm being more consistent with my videos, and this is not day 2. This is my second day. This is my second Sunday of being consistent. See you guys all over the place. But thank you so much for watching. Share, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. And I will see you next week Sunday.